Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning. Welcome to a morning cup of coffee with your leadership strategist, Mary May. Before you make any decision, you should have a cup of coffee and a cup of tea. Um, while we jump into some leadership nuggets that's going to help support you in your role as a leader, as you tend to understand how it is that you show up for yourself, as well as how you show up for others in your leadership, because what you do influences those around you. And when you are better informed, better positioned, then everything works out phenomenal. So every Tuesday, as in every day, but I'm going to say every Tuesday is a transformation season for you, because it's always decision time. We're always trying to position ourselves and ensure that we're not moving in slow motion. We're not feeling stuck. We're not feeling invisible. No hidden figures. Like, we are intentional about how it is that we are going to position ourselves and move forward. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. So I am a leadership strategist, and I help women in corporate America or middle management from being passed over to well-paid and promoted, to be able to position themselves and shift the narrative with clarity so that they can not only understand their purpose, but also understand what may be blocking them, what may be a challenge for them in the workplace. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Um, and so today's conversation, we're going to jump right on in, because in the midst of today's conversation, I have been out in these leadership strategist streets, and I have come across like three different situations that was like, I had already decided what our conversation was going to be, but then the experiences came live and in person. So I want to ask you, are your emotions regulated in your leadership? And say that again. Are your emotions regulated in your leadership? Again, I have some quick examples and some tips that I want to share with you throughout this conversation. But what I want to kind of just point out is, like, it could be very blurry and messy when you are balancing out what your work style and relationships are, what your career intentions are, as well as relationships. We oftentimes may hear people say, I go to work to do my job. And not to necessarily make friends, because I have friends in other places and other aspects of my life. However, sometimes when life is complicated and moving you through different situations, we may forget our positioning and where it is that we are standing in our authority when different moments and situations kind of occur, that kind of occur to us. I am so glad that you had those takeaways. Please feel free to share. That, life kind of overlaps and has so many different things. And thank you also for being here on today. So the one thing I was about to just like kind of drive real fast, and the comment in the chat helped me to remember and reset. So what I want to do is to let you know that engagement is welcome, is actually much appreciated, so I can know that you are hearing me, these things are landing, and that you are definitely having value from this conversation. But I also want to invite you that if you're on the replay, I thank you for joining on the replay, because sometimes 7:30 in the morning on a Tuesday just doesn't work. But definitely thank you for joining on a replay. And if you find that you are in this and live in a replay, that someone you know may benefit from this information, you feel free to share with them as well. And if you find that something lays on your heart that you're like, you know what, I need that secret sauce. I need to know what my secret sauce is so that I can level up in my career, level up in my relationships, get my coin bag leveled up and ready for what it is that I want to do in this world, then you set aside some time and be able to say, okay, you know what? I think I want to get on Mary's schedule because I need some leadership strategy and figuring out, okay, what am I doing? What am I not seeing? And why am I still a hidden figure in this situation? And so what I want to also encourage you and share is that when I'm mentioning the GPS is something that's very, very familiar to us on a day-to-day basis because we use a GPS to kind of get us from one place to the next. You may hear me or see in a hashtag that I'm saying GPS because you're at a certain place in how it is that you activate, how it is that you have intentions on positioning yourself for whatever is your next level. Because your next level, I say survivor to CEO. CEO may not be the status that you're looking for, but it takes a CEO mindset to kind of get there. And in order to get there, you need a strategy. So when I mention GPS, it's a metaphor and it's a process. It's a metaphor of the navigation of getting you from your current reality to your desired and preferred places in how it is you are able to and how it is that you are able to kind of reposition yourself. But then there is a process that I have created with the Leadership Blueprint that helps you be able to identify some of the blind spots and barriers that keep you from what you should be doing in your natural everyday life as a leader. Because as that everyday life in leadership, you have some unexpected twists and turns. And the thing is that the personal is always going to influence the professional. And the professional is always going to influence the personal. So they have a relationship, whether it is what you want it to be or not, that becomes how it is that you choose to stand in, not allowing individuals to see you sweat. And so when you think about not allowing people to see you sweat, you have to be living and breathing how you tend to grow and invest in yourselves for leveling up. So you may hear me also say that emotions emotions don't grant you paychecks. Emotions and how you may have feelings around what is being said, how it's being said, what things that you would like to live and kind of level up differently is forget the they said. What are you saying to yourself? What are you valuing within yourself? So, like, you got to understand it's a difference between what you said, what you own, what you want to do. But the regulation of your mood and your emotions is you have to be very, very mindful and very, very clear of that 2 millimeter shift because that 2 millimeter shift that you would need to make or be aware of is that being in intentions on how you are viewed, experienced, and the things that you have going on around you. Are you driving with emotions? Emotions are not the data to tell you if you need to make a change or not. Data is the numbers. Data is the evidence that what is working or what is not working and that you need to shift. But emotions will have you attached to the money that you're spending or the loss that you feel like you are not being able to attend certain events and situations with friends. And that may not be the thing that should guide your decision on how you execute moving your life from one point to the next. So when you think about moving from the position you're in or getting a promotion or, kind of just, positioning yourself where it's productive, you have to execute and understand where your emotions play a part. So you have your current responsibilities at work, you have your different situations that are going on. But if you have barriers, let's just say like the noise in personal life can be very, very challenging. And some of my examples will kind of lead into that. You have to learn how to have a balance. If you need to take a step out, take a break, take a half day, resetting your intentions and your space, then you need to do that. And again, when I get to the examples, that will make more sense, because it will inform how the leaders who are around you, who have the ink in the pen, the insight to know how your skill set matches that next level of permission, they have to trust your leadership. They have to trust not only your leadership, but your value in decision making, critical thinking, being able to execute, spin on a dime, like all of those things, that you are in the best intentions and best space. So when you think about how you share or overshare, when you think about how you share and overshare, or sometimes undershare, you have to think about, how is this sharing going to help me in my purpose and my strategy when I'm making good decisions? And if your emotions are not clear, you have a disaster waiting to happen. And the reason it could be a disaster is because your productivity is impacted by that internal dialogue that may be bossing you around. And if that internal dialogue is bossing you around, then you are not clear. You have not sat down and had a mind dump and just put everything on paper and then created the step-by-step process. Could be your strategy on how you're going to see this project all the way through, how you're not going to allow distractions to detour you in your mapping of how it is that you're going to be. So if your emotions become overreactive, then if you become overreactive, over responsive, then you end up changing your positioning. So the GPS is the goals with clarity, the P is planning and positioning, and then the S is learning what your secret sauce is and that strategy. So if you're not positioning yourself well, you are going to have a challenge with understanding why people may trust or not trust, or value you, trust your insight in your leadership, or value what it is that you need to say. So it's like, when you pour into your cup, what are you like not allowing them to be involved in to make that clear decision about you? Let me give you some examples to kind of put this into context. And these are 3 different scenarios that came up between our last Tuesday leadership nugget and this Tuesday. So this is live and in person, and understanding that people are really allowing emotions to dysregulate their capacity, dysregulate or take them off the map for promotion, take them off the map for that pay increase. Like, it just takes you out of the map, because it's like, why did that person respond that way? So one of the examples is, you're received a disturbing phone call from your family. You were in the middle of the flow of your workday, and this phone call has kind of offset your tone and your upbeat and your focus on being productive in that process. You now go into your supervisor office, whoever your supervisor may be, and you begin to share what it is that has happened between losing a cousin in your life, and losing the ability to see them again, because they're no longer on this side of the earth. You have an expectation for your supervisor to be empathetic, but your supervisor has an expectation to have productivity and everything done that needs to be done in that workplace. So their response sets you off even more, because they're not empathetic to what you just shared. They're empathetic to what has to be done in the workday. And so when they respond to you and say, well, we don't have leave for cousins who pass away. That's their response. You're going to react, because that's not the reason you walked into their office to even share what that phone call was. So you opened a package of reality not perception. You perceived that going into that space that you were going to get a different level of support, some level of empathy, and that's not what that relationship is. Even though if you have talked about your family, your children, and trips and stuff like that, and it seems comfortable, that's not the place to actually get your resource. Second thing, someone had personal disappointment in their life, not being seen, not being heard, and possibly not even being respected by, say, a personal friend or family members throughout their conversation. And so they left that space feeling that they were not empowered, not worthy, unable to kind of move forward in their next situation. And then they get to work, and they get to work on Monday, say on Friday, and they're beginning to share all of these different things. They begin to cry and complain about what is actually happening with them personally because they got triggered by their emotions with a conversation in the workplace, and they begin to cry and complain. Well, if you're in there crying and complaining about something that you need to do, you may be too distracted to accept and embrace a promotion at this time. You may have crossed a boundary that they didn't necessarily want to be involved in your process in that particular way. And so over the weekend, they have to make a decision that you had no idea was already in the play, and you have now changed your positioning of how it is that you are able to have the capacity to deal with anything new, because you went into the office, you thought that you end up getting triggered by them, supervisor, team meeting, whomever, making you feel not heard, not respected, and invisible. Well, there's no hidden figures when it comes to leadership. However, there may be a hidden figure, and you recognizing that that place was a safe place for you to share whatever you felt like you needed to share. And when it turns around that that's not the expectation, the barrier now comes on Tuesday when they have to make that announcement of who is the person to get the promotion. You have now shifted your position where you are no longer a candidate. Yes, you could be human. Yes, things happen. However, when it comes to executing your leadership and recognizing your positioning, your emotions matter to you. However, when it influences how you see a problem, how you resolve conflict, how you are able to move the needle from one situation to the next, you might need to take a walk. You might need to say, excuse yourself from the space, even if you are triggered, so that that initial response, that initial impulse of thinking is not how you're driving your leadership and not how you're thinking about how it is that you will be positioned for your next opportunity. Because you have to be mindful of who truly owns the responsibility of you positioning yourself and you having the goals of intentions of how you're going to move to the next level. What do you need to engage in and divorce from, separate yourself from, to have that transformation that's going to make it a reality? Because then the third example that I have is of a professional who is an assigned in assigned leadership role, where they go to the staff meeting, they have not given input in regards to what it is that they feel should be on the agenda for the meeting, but they use that space to yell, try to correct, try to, return the energy, because they say that they don't want the promotion or the next thing, but they also don't recognize that their influence, their reactions drives the energy of everybody else around them. And whereas that may look like a good thing to do, if you're doing it from a place of control and manipulation with the wrong intentions of your emotions not being regulated, we should not be in a professional setting yelling at our team. If you feel that you have become agitated or upset or anything like that, and you are leading the meeting, hopefully you will say, I thought this was a great time for the meeting. However, we need to reschedule. Or say, you know what, I need to take like a 5 or 10 minute break. Can we reconvene in a couple minutes? Because when you begin to personalize the workplace and allow your personal emotions to kind of influence and impact your decision making, you allow the question of who owns how you position yourself for that next promotion, for that next pay increase, for whatever that leveling up in your career would truly and authentically look like. Because when your capacity of being able to not only manage what you have shared personally or how you show your emotions in the today situation, you have to be mindful that if it doesn't shape up and is not framed in the correct way, then you are also telling people how to respect you or not respect you, how to see you or not see you in different situations. Because as a leader who has regulated capacity, you're able to make leadership look very, very seamless. However, if you have difficulties with managing your emotions or the project at hand, it's like, okay, we really need to sit down and have a conversation, because your leadership blueprint is missing your secret sauce, your ability. Not saying don't be human. However, you need to be sure that when you are in the work zone, when you are on a project, that you are activating what it is going to make this shift and this process work very well. But if you are working from a dysregulated standpoint, you're not able to control your emotions in the way that, in the context of the situation, that you remain in the professional view. Because if you're yelling in a team meeting, then there's something else that you need to have a conversation about. If you are yelling in or you're grieving a situation and you are not realizing that, say, the tone of your voice is actually changing, then you need to be able to say, okay, you know what, I might need a couple of days off to recognize how it is that this grief that I'm having, whatever you're grieving, you might need to reset the table. You might need to reset your energy, but not allow it to be explosive or contagious or contaminated in the leadership workplace. Because when you are poorly responding to how you should be in the context of the workplace, you're not in the accepted range of responses because you're not in your personal space. So you might need to go take a drive, you might need to go take a walk, you might need to go take another phone call with somebody who's not connected to work. Because whatever you say in the workplace, whatever you say in a meeting, whatever you say you think is casually, just remember every single conversation is a interview. So if every conversation is an interview, you have to be mindful that both casual and professional overlap. However, you don't want them to overlap in a way that it takes you out of the next person in line to have the transformation of positioning yourself with intention and being able to kind of activate how you would like to live on your own terms. Because yes, your work, your career, and your relationships, they become blurry when you are not clear, when you don't have the clarity that you need to kind of activate how you need to position yourself. What things should you have in your conversation when you're at work? Because if you think about how a butterfly represents transformation, it represents your intention and your acceptance to a new beginning. So that means that you're going to have to go through a metamorphosis, like shedding of the old version of self and how it is that you have been operational when dealing with grief, when dealing with things that upset you, when feeling that you're unseen, unheard, invisible. There's no hidden figures. You can't continue to hide behind the mask or hide behind the curtain when it comes to how you are trying to shape and balance your life and strategy out so that you can be successful. So if any of these things, any of these examples feel really, really close to what your experience is, that you feel invisible and overlooked, we really need to talk. And I mean, when we really need to talk, it's like in that first consultation, whether you decide to continue and work with me or not, you will walk away with understanding where does it become blurry for you? Where are your blind spots and where are some of the barriers that's kind of in place and impacting how your purpose and your blueprint may be shaped in not so much the best benefit for yourself. Because if you are wearing that mask and your emotions are driving all of your decisions, then you have to also remember emotions don't cash checks. They just simply don't. So you have to kind of realize, not kind of, it's up to you to determine how you want to break the code, how you want to break that ceiling, how you want to elevate and stand in your authority in your leadership, that you unapologetically will survive and shed and transform whatever it is that you need, so that you're no longer hiding in plain sight. You're no longer wearing that mask, but you are infusing your secret sauce. You have the strategy and you have the clarity that's going to help you to get that execution piece that you're looking for. Because as long as the system is broken, you're going to keep experiencing the same result, and you're going to be sitting with that level of disappointment and discouragement when you get to that Tuesday meeting and the announcement is made that somebody else got the promotion. You're going to be wondering why, because from a time rich perspective, you knew that you were next in line, and you actually were, until you came into the meeting or came into the space and gave additional information that suggested that maybe you don't have the capacity to take on something new right now. Maybe you don't have the bandwidth that I thought that you had, that was going to have you be excellent in this role. Are your emotions leading your leadership? Are they regulated? Do they share the purpose of how you can leverage your skills and be able to have the purpose that you need in seeking the change that you desire? Your leadership blueprint is up to you. And when you decide and understand that your strategy and balance are the key ingredients to your secret sauce, then you will understand and be able to live and get and secure that problem solving role, that leadership role, being that big thinker, that the metaphor as well as the process of the GPS will make sense to you in your day-to-day journey. So I hope that this Tuesday nugget has served you well. I thank you for another Tuesday, for being open to how it is that you can change your what has been programmed in you, recognizing that internal struggle that you may be having in regards to how it is that you level up in your career. And if you have like jumped in on parts of the conversation and whatever, I suggest that you go back to the top of the conversation so that you can hear what the leadership nugget is today. Like, are your emotions regulated in your leadership, or are you experiencing that emotions don't cash checks? You have to realize emotions don't cash checks. Emotions is not the data. Emotions is not the thing that's going to help you be able to say that you have the capacity as well as the leadership skills to continue to take the project to the next level. And I would like to assist you in that side by side, should you choose that that's the best journey for you. So I thank you for joining on this Tuesday, and I look forward to connecting with you soon, if not next Tuesday. So in the meanwhile, you stay safe and stay well, and enjoy your cup of coffee, tea, or whatever you enjoy while watching this live. Take care.